Hi there. Today we are going to talk about probability rules. Some basic things about probability. First, I'm going to start off with an example. An easy example to start with, we're just going to flip a coin. All right. So then we would say, well, what's the probability of flipping a head? All right, and there's a couple ways I could write this. I could call this is H, the event. This is that I flip a head. And then I could say the probability of that event is half. And so what does that mean? So what does this mean right here? This probability. What is the meaning of that? And that's what we're gonna use an experiment to explain what probability means. And what this experiment is going to look like is I'm going to flip a head over and over again and see what happens. Now, rather than, I thought about flipping a real coin and like sticking it up in your face, but it was like hard to see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use simulation. All right, to, let's say, flip a coin many times. All right, simulation, I'm going to use software that makes it look like I flipped the coin and I wrote down the results. All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to use Excel, this Microsoft Excel, and there is a formula in Excel that is called ran between. So if you type in the function ran between, you can put, you know, it's like the minimum to the maximum number that you want. So flip a coin, I either want a head or a tail. So I have to pick numbers when you do simulation. So I'm going to call 1, you know, a head and 2 a tail. And so I'm going to use that function. And every time I calculate this function, it'll either give me a 1 or a 2. And because this is random, this rand means random. That means that these guys, 1 or 2, these are going to be equally likely. So everything in that list will be equally likely to come out. All right, so you can see here that I actually use this ran between here, 1, 2, but I put an if formula. An if formula says if the first thing is true, then the first thing over here is your output, and if it's not true, then the next thing. So it's if this, then this guy, else this guy. So basically this is saying if I get a 1, then I want it to be a head, and if I get a 2, it's a tail. All right, so you can see here this formula, I've got my flip is a head. All right, and so what I had done, I've done this before, is I copied that formula down a bunch of times in this column here, and now I have a bunch of flips. All right, and we're going to first talk about the first 10 flips. All right, so the first flip is a tail. And so what I'm going to do here is I want to say, what's the probability of a head? So what I'm going to do is on this first flip, I'm going to say, well, how many tails do I have so far? And that number is 0. So after my first flip, I've had no heads. And so what is the proportion of heads that I've flipped so far? And so the way that I get a proportion is I count the number of times that this has occurred divided by the total number of times. So basically, so far, I've had 1 flip, 0 heads. So my proportion of heads so far is 0. Okay. Second flip, I get another tail. Same deal. My proportion of heads is still 0. Third time I flip, I flip a head. So now in the first 3 flips, I have 1 head. So my proportion of heads is 1/3. And so that's 0.333 to 3 decimal places. The next one, I get another head. Now I've got 2 heads out of 4 flips. So this is half. So basically, what would happen if I did that many times? And you can see I've got a graph over here. And on that graph, it's the first 10 flips. And you can see that my proportion of heads, it started out at 0, and then it was 0 again, and then it was 1/3, and then it was 1/2, and you can see it went on and on. All right. So this blue line, that's half. So it started out away from half, it kind of got a little closer. The next graph is what happens if I do 100 flips. So you can see here's again my 0, 0, and then my 1/3 and 1/2. And so now you can see that what's happening is over time, it's kind of going up and down around this blue line. And you can see even at 100 flips, it doesn't equal half. It's close to half, but it doesn't equal half. And then in 1,000 flips, all right, again, we started at 0 a couple times. All right, you can see it's getting closer and closer to half. So, and in fact, if I go to the very last flip, because I did this 1,000 times, I'm going to do it, hit end down to get to the bottom. You can see that the proportion of flips as of 1,000 is 0.508. It is not 0.5, but it's very close to 0.5. And that is the idea of probability, that if my probability is 1/2, then if I repeat that experiment many, many times, then my proportion of that event will be close to half.